And welcome to the No Assembly Required podcast, where we talk about nothing, filmed in front of a live YouTube audience. Today, hold on. hold on. And now those were my notes.
Audrey, we're like 2 seconds in. You already messed it up.
And now your trio of hosts, starting with Spooky Romina. And your second host, Amazing Audrey. And sadly, our third host is not with us today. Because of technical issues, which is
because of power outages.
I'm not done, Romina.
Oh, sorry. It's just you don't have a specific intro voice, so it's hard to know when it's over. All right, go.
Please like and subscribe.
Wow. Okay. Brilliant. Absolutely great. That was
the best. Oh my goodness.
That was Audrey trying to do the Roberto intro because sadly Roberto won't be joining us for our episode today. He along with about 1 million other people is experiencing a power outage tonight, and so he's not going to be able to join us for today's episode. But we do have a very special episode today because, well, it's October 29th, and so Audrey's got some devil horns and some makeup on. I have my usual cat ears and witch hat, and we're just going to talk about some scary things. That's scary, right?
My favorite topic.
So,
wait, Romina. Oh,
what?
Sorry.
Yeah. What?
I was just gonna say I'm excited for your story. Okay. / terrified.
I'm a little disappointed that Roberto isn't here because I know that he's got some stories to share regarding that as well. And I think that coming from his perspective is interesting because, like, usually when you hear about stalker stories, it's like a female being stalked, right? So you don't usually hear the male perspective. And I think that it would have been interesting to listen to Roberto's take on that and his experiences. Then also because, I did buy Roberto those giraffe ears.
Did he get them?
I don't know. I don't know, but he will probably just pretend like that never happened.
We're just gonna pretend like he never got them.
Yeah, he's just gonna pretend like he never got the giraffe ears, which is a little sad because I did spend $9.99 on them. So it was a lot of sweat and tears that went into the purchase of those giraffe headband. So when it comes to the whole stalker thing, Audrey, do you have any stories regarding stalkers?
I feel like mine aren't as bad as yours, Romina. I don't really have like a bad one. I just have a couple things that stood out that are kind of weird. Should I just? I have two that kind of stand out, but it's the same person, so they're linked. But basically, I had a PO box for like a year last year. This isn't stalking. This could be harmless. I think I'm just kind of worried about being stalked or something, so I'm kind of like hyper aware. I got this thing in the mail, and I don't know if this is like, I don't remember the exact wording of the message, but it was kind of weird, and they gave me like a gift card for like $5 or something to Starbucks, I think, or maybe it was Amazon. I don't remember. And I'd gotten messages from this person previously online that were a little weird. Let's just put it that way. And so when I got this thing in the mail, I was like, I feel bad saying this, but I literally like left it at I left it at the post office because it's like, I don't want to bring this home. Like, I don't know. I was so freaked out, or like not freaked out. I was creeped out by the messages I'd gotten. So when I got that thing in the mail, I was like, what if this thing has like a tracker on it or something? And I just left it at the mail station, like what a post office.
I don't think that's something that's super, like, it's not bad to be paranoid about that.
Yeah.
I feel like it's a good thing to be kind of hyper aware of those kinds of things.
Yeah. So it's not a really crazy story, but that was something that, I don't know, it kind of freaked me out at the time, because when I recognized the name like in person on a piece of paper, on an envelope, I was like, okay, this is like kind of creepy. Yeah, and it was like months, like almost a year after those messages. So I think the time difference also scared me a little bit. Yeah. So there's my story. That's the only one that really like stands out to me as a serious, creepy one.
And what about like weird messages and stuff like that? Like, do you ever get those?
Oh my god, this isn't weird, but this is kind of, I don't know, maybe it's sad on my part a little bit. But okay, I posted a picture on Instagram, and this is completely unrelated actually. I posted a picture on Instagram, and in the picture, it's from like many years ago. And I got this message not that long ago. So it definitely been like a year or two since I posted that photo and this message. And in the photo, my hand is like in a way where it looks like I have 4 fingers. So I don't know, it just kind of looks weird. So this dude sends me a message and he's like, oh my god, I also have 4 fingers. And he sent me a picture of his hand. And I was like, what do I say back to this? Like, I don't like, because in the caption I like joked that I had 4 fingers. So it felt really bad. That was completely related, but I brought it up because that was also someone who sent me weird messages sometimes. So, but yeah, there's just, I don't know. I feel like getting weird messages is kind of normal though. Like, I don't even know.
Yeah, I think it's because there's a lot of people who don't read social cues or are not very good at these kind of social interactions, I guess.
Yeah.
Which isn't like per se malicious or like a bad thing. It's just some people are just not really good at reading a room. By the way, speaking of room, someone just walked in. Unexpected.
Completely unexpected.
Completely unexpected and unplanned.
What? Who is that?
It's your favorite friendly neighborhood SpiderMan.
Wow. Well, we wouldn't know. It just looks like you might be a stalker because we can't see your face. So for those of you listening, Roberto's in full-on costume right now.
Yep.
Wait, how did you get Wi-Fi?
What's that? Well, what I did is I decided to tether my iPhone because I have, so I don't have to worry about using my data from my main phone. I used my other phone. Just decided to tether.
See, those are the actions of a smart man.
I'm kind of a smart person, kind of a stable genius here.
Wait, is that the Miles hoodie?
Yes. How did you not like totally like as much as you're a Spider-Verse fan?
I know, but I did. That's why I said it.
Yeah. No, I've got the whole thing.
Yeah, you think he's gonna fool around?
Oh my god.
J's and all. I'm not even joking. I didn't play around.
Oh, he's even got. Oh, don't fall
like that the whole time.
Don't fall off the chair.
Yeah.
I
want to see those photo shoot pictures.
Wait, I'm gonna take a picture of this right now. Stay right there, Roberto.
Everybody,
you have to stay like that the whole podcast.
Yeah, everybody, get your screenshots in.
Nope. There we go. It's a little bit less like anticlimactic with the background. You need to be like on a building or something.
Well, that's what green screens are for. Actually, if I really wanted to, I could just grab the green screen back there.
Yeah, but you don't really want to.
Yeah, I really don't. Actually, StreamYard has green screen now that I think about it.
It does?
Yeah,
Like
the
Zoom?
Yard has green
Oh,
screen features.
my browser doesn't support it.
Uh-oh.
Lifts up the mask to see clearly.
I know.
I don't think Miles does that, Roberto.
Yeah, well, I can't
Yeah,
see
well-
for Jack, so
He didn't get all of his spidey senses.
You didn't get all of them.
He only got some of them.
let's see. No, this is like the green screen stuff is, and Miles does lift up his mask quite a lot in the movie, actually.
I need to rewatch that movie series.
I'd
It's
have
been a
to
while.
do a lot more work than I'm willing to get this green screen stuff to work.
Gabe says, something tells me this isn't the only time of year Roberto breaks out the spidey suit.
I'm sorry, I missed that. What?
Gabe says, something tells me this isn't the only time of year Roberto breaks out the spidey suit.
It is so far.
So far.
Yeah. I mean,
So
I'll probably
far.
for Halloween. My plan is to stream on Twitch in full costume for Halloween. So there's that. I also am planning to do this get up when I get the PS5. When I finally do get the PS5 and I'm on Twitch streaming the Miles game,
Harry Potter?
I plan to do this whole bit again. So
Wow. Audrey really wants to play Harry Potter.
Yeah, I am.
what's going on?
I am going to.
Harry Potter.
What's going on?
Oh my god. I think the
We
spidey
lost
suit
him.
is affecting his hearing.
It's doing the opposite of what.
What about Harry Potter?
The Harry Potter game.
No, I think it's lag because I mean I'm on like bullshit Wi-Fi.
Oh yeah, that's what it is. I think it's lag because I think he's responding to the other thing I just said. Roberto, chicken.
Let's take some pauses.
Wait, what? What about chicken?
Okay, Romina, someone in
okay.
chat's ready for the stories.
Oh, okay. All right. Some stories. So, have you ever had any weird encounters with your subscribers? Yes.
Yes.
I think I'll start off with my story just because it's kind of a sad one and also just kind of like weird in the sense that it's not your typical story of what you would expect. Because this really started off with someone who was a supporter of my channel, and that then grew to a Patreon supporter, and he was my highest paying patron, and it was one of those supporters who is just there for every single video and every single tweet and every single post. And so to me, like, I'm used to that kind of thing, so it doesn't raise any red flags until that behavior started to become violent, and not towards me per se, but towards himself in a very kind of manipulative, like very bad way. So he was someone who obviously, I mean, like, he had some kind of mental issues and I think, like, I never got to meet him, but I think that he had some kind of developmental issues as well. And so his perception of what was appropriate was not appropriate to me. And so he continued to support me, like, through my channel, through all of my posts, and was very supportive of, like, you know, like, sending me fan mail and sending me things. And the only reason that he got my postal address is because I don't share it. I never shared it like you guys do. Like, I never was like, oh, send me stuff ever.
Well, we have
like,
PO
never.
boxes, like, not our actual, like, thing.
Oh yeah, well, me too. I don't use my actual address for anything. This is like the only reason that he got this address is because I used to do giveaways on my channel. And so I had the return address, which was my mailbox, of course. And he started sending me stuff, like unsolicited things. Like he would just send me things, like boxes of just stuff and like trinkets and all this stuff. And like he started to do that continuously. It was like every few weeks I was getting another package or like a letter or a drawing or something. And it was too much for me, where I was like, I don't want this. I didn't ask for this. And so I was very nice to him. And I was like, listen, could you not send me anything? Because I really don't need anything. And I don't want anything. I don't want gifts. I don't want anything from my fans. Like, I don't want them to be spending money on me sending me stuff. Right. So I did contact him and I told him, hey, like, stop sending me stuff, because that's just not something that I want. But thank you for doing that, you know? Anyway, he was fine and he didn't send me any more things, but he kept, you know, being supportive, in quotes, right, of like what I was doing and my posts and my videos and stuff. And when I started to get very kind of wary of him, because he started to post like these really sad and like complicated posts. Like every time he commented on my videos, it was always like paragraphs long and very complicated. And he would talk about like his late wife, and he would talk about things that were kind of like a lot of information and a lot for me to take in that I didn't really want to know. But within that was like, I love this video because of this and that. And it was very like detailed and long. And so I wanted to engage and be like, oh, thank you for supporting me. But then at the same time,
seemingly thoughtful, but it was ultimately manipulative.
Right. It was like too much stuff. And so I kept, so I started to kind of decrease the amount of interaction that I had with him, because I was like, okay, it feels like he's not one of those normal fans that I can just, you know, heart a tweet and it's just like a normal thing. It's like, hearting a tweet is like, I love you, right? It's like has a different meaning to him. And so I started to decrease my interaction with him, and I started to be a little bit more noticeable. Like I started to notice more how I was interacting with him. And so
you were cautious and you withdrew a little bit.
Right. I did. And I thought, okay, this is like a tactful kind of way of just being like, hey, like go fangirl with somebody else, right?
Yeah, boundaries.
Right. And eventually I noticed there was one day where he actually started messaging me on Twitter. He was tweeting me about walking around in LA. And he was just walking around, and he was like, he had like some package or something like that he wanted to give me. And it was like, again, this is me trying to interpret what he says, because it's very difficult, because the way that he spoke was very hard to understand. He was just not well. And so from what I deduced, he was walking all day around LA, and it sounded like he was expecting us to meet up at some point. And of course,
or was trying to run into you.
I didn't have a meeting with him, so it's like, okay. But he was walking around, and then it got really violent, and, you know, a lot of like cursing and just very angry stuff, like, you know, because I wasn't there, right? Because he didn't bump into me. And so the tweets, when that happened that day, I actually started going back to all of his tweets. And I noticed that all of the stuff that he was tweeting at me and he was tagging me in, I was the only person he was tagging. I was the only person he was responding to. I was the only person that he was leaving comments on videos for. So he only was fangirling over me. And so I was like, okay, like fangirling is one thing, but when you fangirl over 2, 3, 5 other, you know, people. You don't just do it for one person. So that's like too much. And so when that happened, I was like, okay, this is unacceptable behavior. And I actually called the police that day. because I was like, this guy is walking around, he's making threats, like violent threats, and not necessarily towards me, but towards himself because of me. Like he's threatening to hurt himself.
He was threatening self-harm.
Right. And to get my attention.
To get your attention and also to leverage you.
Right. And so I contacted the police and I was like, listen, I have this guy's information. Like, I know who he is. I have his address. I have his full name. And like, what can you do? And they were like, well, and this is what the cop said on the phone to me. He's like, I'm sorry, but you kind of put yourself in this position because you're a public figure. And I was like, no, just because I'm a public figure doesn't mean that I'm asking to be stalked. It doesn't mean that I'm asking.
You were asking for it. And it's your
right, exactly. I was asking for it.
I cannot believe they said that to you.
Yeah,
I cannot believe that.
And I was like, well, then what am I supposed to do? And he's like, well, you've already talked to me. If there's something that happens, you have my number, and like you could just contact me and whatever. I'm just like what?
What is something happens supposed to
like
be?
if he shows up to my what does that mean? Because I'm telling you that he's making threats, and apparently that's not good enough.
That's like, I mean, can you imagine if like someone had said that to Selena back in the day? Like, it's like, oh well, this is your fault because you decided to become a performer.
Right, exactly. And so
can you imagine somebody saying that to Jennifer Lawrence or Taylor Swift?
Right, of course.
I mean, even back when they were on the come up, you know what I mean? Like,
right. It's it was very like I didn't know what to do really in that position, and because to me I was like, if I block him, he'll see that I've blocked him. Will he get mad? Is he going to show up to my mailbox and wait? He knows what I look like. He knows what my dad looks like because he's been in a video of mine. Mm-hmm. And it's like, if he could literally just show up to the mailbox and wait for either me or someone that I know to show up there, and either like hurt them or like hurt himself or hurt the people who work at the mailbox. And it's like, so suddenly like I had all this responsibility and I wasn't sure if I could block him or if that would make things worse or if I should just keep ignoring him. So it was a lot of like going back and forth on what what was the right thing to do at that point. And so when like as the day and stuff unfolded, like I eventually just like I was like completely ignoring this guy, right? And I was just like, okay, I think I'm just going to do the complete ignore because clearly like just having a little bit of boundaries wasn't enough. Like just being like, oh, I'll only like 1 out of 20 of your tweets. It's like, no, I just cut him completely. So I ended up not blocking him. I was just completely ignoring him so that it wasn't like, so that he wouldn't notice that I wasn't receptive to him anymore. Because I muted him and I wasn't responding to him, he started to be really violent with like his tweets and stuff and just very angry all the time because I wasn't responding to his stuff. So eventually I was like, okay, this is like clearly the ignoring thing isn't working. So I'm just going to flat out block him. So I ended up blocking him. And when I did, when I blocked him, I still had another account where I was watching, what he was doing because I didn't know, because since I blocked him, I still needed to watch what he was doing and keep an eye on him, as the Godfather says, like keep your enemies close, right? And so I was just watching, and it wasn't really so much like I wasn't afraid of what he was going to do to me. It was just the fact that I didn't know what he was capable of, period. Yeah. Right?
No, that's scary.
So it eventually got to a point where, because I was still watching what he was doing, because I saw what he was still doing, I eventually saw that he started to tweet other people and interact and like follow other people and fangirl over other people. So I was like, okay, this is good. He's like moving on from me, right? I'm just like, he looks like he's like fangirling and moving on to other things. Freaking, I go to a Poppy concert with my friends, okay? And this was like, I went with three of my friends.
How long ago was this when Poppy was a thing?
Yeah.
I went with three of my friends, all right?
Mm-hmm.
2 girls, 1 guy. We went to this Poppy concert, and it was like this was Poppy before she was like big, really. This was like very, like she was still Titanic Sinclair. This? Probably like 2017, 2016, maybe something. Okay. So
like, it was 2017. We didn't know each other until like 2017, 2018.
It was 2017. So it was in 2017, early 2017. I went to this concert. It was a very small place. And we went to this concert. We had a great time. I go back home, and when I look on Twitter, I decide to check this guy's page because I'm still like watching what he's doing, right? From another account to be able to see what he's doing. So I'm looking at, and the guy has tagged me and is tweeting from the Poppy concert. And he was like, oh, the concert was good. Saw you and your other friend who looked like maybe she was a child. I wasn't sure. She's 4'9". So he was like, he was tweet, and some other guy I don't know. So he says this, right?
That's crazy.
I saw this friend, which you guys know who she is, but I'm not going to mention the name.
Sure.
I saw this friend. I saw this other girl who was maybe a girl maybe a child I don't know, the 4'9" one, and this other guy I don't know. And so he says this to me, and I was like, and I look at the photos, guys, he was right behind where we were.
Oh God.
No.
He freaking
danger.
took photos.
That's literally out of a horror movie.
That's like,
of the
that's
same
like, call the
angle
police
of
for
the
real,
stage.
and now tell them it's like, what was all that good shit?
Now you send it to the police and you're like, hey, dude.
This was insane. And you get this. So the thing is that I never posted publicly that I was going to that concert. Right?
Oh, that's really fucking creepy.
So that was like either huge coincidence or...
No. There's absolutely no way that was a coincidence. I'm sorry.
He found some way to reverse engineer.
There's no way that is a coincidence.
He found some way to freaking social engineer that.
Right. Well, the thing is that, like, I was obviously public about Poppy. I was like, oh man, Poppy's like the greatest, right? So my interest in Poppy was public.
Okay, so it's possible he could have deduced that
I would be there, right?
But then he found you. Like, how big of a...
Well, here's the thing. So
that's already a stretch. Like, he didn't know you were going to be
Well, back then, Poppy wasn't going to draw the kind of crowds that...
No, it was like maybe 100 people, like at most. And I think most of them didn't even know who she was. It was like a really weird, small venue type thing, concert.
It would be much easier to find Romina at a Poppy concert in 2017 than to find me at like MomoCon anytime at like, or like any anime convention, even the smaller ones.
Yeah. It's just like
coincidence though.
I mean, I don't know what it was, but it was definitely like, it really like set me off. Like, I can't believe like this is happening, because like the fact that he didn't, because the normal thing to do would be like, you would be like, oh my God, I'm a huge fan. Hi, I can't believe you're at this Poppy concert. Can I take a picture with you? Or like, hey, it was nice to meet you. Right? That's like the normal interaction. Yeah. But I saw you and I took a picture from the same area angle that you were in, but I didn't go say hi to you.
Yeah.
That's weird.
Right?
That's weird.
So it's just like, oh, I saw you. The other thing that would have been acceptable had this been a normal thing would be, oh, I just saw so and so at this place, but I was too shy to say hello.
Yeah, but knowing the context,
but not taking photos,
acceptable.
Right? Yeah,
I feel like knowing the context, it's not acceptable. It's just weird because you know that this guy was literally threatening to hurt himself if you didn't respond to him. Like that's the creepy levels.
So, and the sad thing about this guy is that I still kept up watching like what he was doing and stuff.
Did you call the police again?
No, it eventually died down. There's nothing to do at like.
Interesting choice of words.
So here's.
I mean, he stalked you. Like I don't know.
Not
There's gotta be something that after.
I meant when you said the words died down. That was an interesting choice of words. Like that was
right. It wasn't. It was. It was on purpose. So. So I kept looking at what he was doing and kind of following him and stuff. And it really did, like it was gone, right? Essentially, I was not a part of his life anymore. And I was still checking up on him. And then eventually I saw one day on Twitter, someone else had posted on his behalf.
Oh no.
Because he passed away. They didn't say how, but he passed away. And it was just like I just wanted to post this, so that his friends would know type of thing.
Wow.
And that's it. So in a way, I was like, I felt comfort, which is really
you felt relief.
weird.
You felt relief. And that's not weird. It's that this situation that you felt
was officially
against your will was you were involved in and tied up in against your will. Mm-hmm. You were able to detangle yourself from that situation and get distance, and then eventually when it came to what I believe is its inevitable conclusion, you knew that you didn't have a hand in it, and you like this burden was no longer on you. Sad as the situation was, it was you no longer had to feel a sense of responsibility or weight or anxiety.
And I think that's really what it is. It's more about the sense of responsibility of not knowing, because there's no, like, you don't have any control over what people do ever, like normally, right? Not your family, your kids, your parents, like there's no control over any other individual, let alone someone who is unstable.
Unwell, yeah.
So that kind of responsibility is so, it's weird because on the one hand you want to be nice and open and and you want to engage with your viewers, but then you get people like that who maybe there was no, I mean, I never felt like there was any malice that was there. I never felt that from him. I think it was really like he was unwell. And
I can tell you, like, I've known people with various situations and everything like that, and I'm no shrink, I'm no doctor, I'm not claiming expertise there. I'm claiming that I have had experience with people who have been unwell, and I've also had experience with people, especially female friends, who've had the unfortunate attention or been the object of obsession or desire of people who have been unwell. I've also been in what can be described as toxic relationships before. And so what I would say from that experience is that you had an individual who, it wasn't even really about you. It was a fixation. And it was the simple fact that you were someone who wasn't outrightly rejecting them. And it was a manufactured parasocial relationship that they concocted in their head. It was a one-sided relationship they concocted in their head, and they inflicted it upon you and made you an unwilling participant in their fantasy, which is completely unreasonable and unfair. And it's something that people don't do when they're well. And so in that situation, it's really hard. And it's really hard because one, most people are not public figures in that way, although I think we're at a point in history where everyone is becoming to some extent a public figure, which begs the question, I mean, outside of numbers and scale, it begs the question, if everybody is special, then is nobody special? Like, from The Incredibles or from any number of like other genre pieces, but it's an interesting philosophical question and a practical one. In a world where almost anyone can go viral, in a world where people can, as these new platforms are introduced, have a following and be a mini celebrity somewhere. One, more people will encounter these situations, and so what you're saying may not be relatable to everybody, but it'll become more relatable, unfortunately. But I think it's something that women, especially young women, have always had to deal with. Not all women, but like a lot of women, and I've known this before the era of social media, I've had friends in this situation, is the unwanted attention. Unwanted attention that happened for no other reason than you existed. And being forced into a one-sided relationship and being an unwilling participant in somebody's delusions or somebody's fantasies.
Right.
And it's unfair and it's unkind. But again, it's not from the person on the other side of that is not being malicious. And this also happens a lot, unfortunately, with young men who don't feel a sense of connection or a sense of community or don't have a sense of belonging. A lot of times young men will either become fixated with even not even always a romantic interest, but even just become fixated with someone or something when they don't feel they have any strong sense of identity or sense of purpose or sense of belonging. Young men become fixated, where that becomes in the form of obsessive dedication to something like sports or music or a fandom, or an unhealthy romantic fixation, or a toxic relationship, or being radicalized. You find that because of the nature of our society, a lot of young men don't talk about their feelings, they don't seek help, and they don't seek to understand the complexities of their own psychology, and they don't realize that they might be, in many cases, going through delusions. And those manifest in a lot of different ways. And the thing is, no one pays attention to these young men because no one was already paying attention to them until it manifests in such an obvious way that's unfortunately unable to be ignored. And usually that's because it has consequences.
Scary.
You did bring up a good point, which Otto mentioned in the chat. I know that creep shouldn't be justified, but I do want to say that I've been misunderstood for my actions in extreme manners that made people uncomfortable. Finding a trustworthy group works both ways, which is kind
Agreed.
of, yeah.
I mean, I think when I was in high school, that there are a lot of things that because of my awkwardness and like my being in my own head, that like I was definitely misunderstood on. I take responsibility for that. But the thing is, it's that I obviously didn't have any ill intent toward people in those situations, or I wasn't trying to be problematic, but I know that somebody like who is on the other end of that situation, it's not really, there's no real reason for them to take me into consideration in that situation. I think like speaking as somebody who's been misunderstood, like it's, if you're being misunderstood, it's not that everyone has to give you a chance. It'd be nice if they did, but it's like you're not owed that. And the thing
Right.
is, if you're the one who wants acceptance, then it's on you to understand and to learn the rules of the game and to understand other people before you ask to be understood.
Yeah.
So it is what it is.
Yeah.
Finding a group of people who will give you that chance over and over, and also help, for lack of a better word, socialize you or civilize you, is wonderful. But it's not something that everybody finds, or finds right away, or finds when they're seeking it the most or want it the most, because you can't force those things and they have to happen organically. I feel that internet culture can in some cases allow for that, but I also feel that internet culture also leads to a lot of potential opportunities for fixation, obsession, or radicalization, and finding and seeking acceptance, belonging, or comfort in the wrong places, all the wrong places. And I think that happens quite a bit.
Yeah.
There are consequences in the real world that are a deterrent to those things that don't exist because boundaries don't exist as much in digital.
Mm-hmm.
As public figures, we're often punished for trying to establish those boundaries, or we're criticized for trying to establish those boundaries, or outrightly attacked.
Right. Like when Cloudgate happened.
Yeah.
That's
It's when
Audrey, you might remember it more as, or I don't know if you would, the fappening.
It rings a bell, but I'm not.
Yeah.
Can you? Who was involved?
Nudes leaked of a bunch of female celebrities.
Oh yeah, okay.
Through iCloud hacks.
Yeah, wasn't that like Jennifer Lawrence or something?
Yeah, a lot of people. Yep.
Okay, I remember that.
She was one of the bigger. Yeah.
I mean, it's like when David Dobrik has people show up to his house, and then people say that it's, part of the job that he signed up
or part of the deal. It's like, no, it's not.
No, it's not. Like, you're
and
the
the
one
thing
who's
is, if
showing
he
up
had
to
big
another
dogs
human's
and they
house.
like mauled you, the dog would get put down, and that's sad because it's not the dog's fault because the dog's protecting its owner, and you had no business being there.
Like, I saw recently on his TikTok that someone flew a drone into his backyard and like dropped something off.
That could have been weaponized. That could have been.
I know,
like,
and
freaking...
it was. He literally just moved because people knew where he lived, and like he didn't. I guess maybe the neighborhood he's in now. Like,
I'm not advocating for violence, but like these are the kind of like people who like these punks that like think this is okay to have their ass kicked.
I'm like who? In what world is it okay to fly a drone into someone's backyard? And like, I think they were doing it for like trying to get TikTok clout, and I guess they succeeded because David posted it on his thing, which, in my opinion, he shouldn't have done. Because
I don't know if California, but I don't know if California's Second Amendment stuff and everything like that. But I know here in Georgia, someone would have shot that drone out of the freaking.
I mean, that's what I would have done. I would have literally taken something and just smacked it to the ground.
Like,
and he couldn't argue destruction of property because it's like, no, you're trespassing.
You're on. Yeah, he could have just. They're trespassing. You're not allowed to do that.
And
like,
also in California, you can't record someone without their permission. In the state of
so I don't know why he posted on.
Right, there's a lot of laws that were broken, especially because the airspace above his house is private property.
Yep.
Yeah, like he literally just moved so that things like this wouldn't happen, and then someone flies a drone into his backyard to get around that rule. I'm like, dude, you need to set an example and like not post about it and smack the drone out of the thing.
I'd probably have to, so that my dogs don't have to get put down for protecting me, I'd have to probably beat the hell out of somebody before my dogs can get to them so that my dogs aren't put down for doing their job.
Right. Yeah, that's also the other thing is like these, influencers who actually condone it and they're just, if they just...
Or lean into it, because some of them don't condone it, but they lean into it to not look.
Right.
But it's because people throw it in their face and say that.
Or I guess enabling.
Well, they're doing it because like it's weaponized against. If you don't do things and you don't pander or cater to and suck off the audience, sometimes it's weaponized against you, and it frustrates me because that's why I've been the advocate for boundaries and everything like that. And I'm trying to teach young influencers to sacrifice a little bit of clout to set those boundaries and not sit there and stop saying. Like these things to try and seem humble and I'm nothing without you and this it's like, no, stop it. Stop letting people think that they're entitled to access and intimacy that is not earned by strangers, even if they decide to quote unquote support you. There's a level of intimacy that respectfully like people are not owed. That there are boundaries, and these are strangers, and there are things where it's like they can't hold what you've done for ransom and say and if they want individually withhold support, that's one thing, but to also go on these campaigns of trying to demonize people or cancel them because they didn't give you the attention or relationship or intimacy you thought you deserved and everything like that, that's emotional blackmail. And then when you're trying to hurt their career, it's outright blackmail and extortion, and it's just effing wrong, and it's disgusting. Right. It's disgusting, and putting distance and boundaries is not being disrespectful or not punching
or entitled
down. The fact that you think you're entitled to somebody's time, attention, access, whatever little bit you're asking for, even thinking you're entitled to a shout out or acknowledgement or a heart or a this or a that or a reply, and constantly bombarding somebody like for things like that, even though you think it's so small, so little, it's an invasion of that person's headspace. And to throw in their face, well, you shouldn't, if you didn't want this, you shouldn't have been a public figure, is absolute bullshit that takes no responsibility for your own entitlement and bad behavior. And again, hashtag joking, hashtag not serious, but people should get punched in the mouth for that. Because in the real world, if somebody went upside their head for that, no one would debate whether it was deserved. No one would debate whether it was deserved. If whether it's a guy or girl, if there's like consequences like that for invading someone's physical bubble, physical space, or making demands of them, or emotionally blackmailing them, and you got a freaking backhand, you got 5 across the face, nobody would feel sorry for you.
Right.
You do it in the internet, you do it in comments, you do it on Twitter and everything, you're the freaking devil.
Right.
It's bullshit. I have no interest in it.
Right. Like, it's okay to defend yourself physically when you see that you're being physically attacked, but then when you're being emotionally or intellectually attacked, then when you fight back with words, you're suddenly the bad guy.
If I was 10 years younger, I'd be into this whole YouTube boxing thing, because I would literally just challenge everybody to a boxing match.
Well, Roberto, I mean, we could do like a seniors match.
A seniors match.
I'll get my walker.
Yeah, we'll get you with someone that's got your same weight and
we've got to we gotta have a ramp for me. We gotta get me my walker, and we have to make sure we finish in time for me to have my early bird dinner.
Wait, I have a question that's unrelated.
Wow. Okay.
So my roommates are like 23, right? And they act like if they're like these old ladies all the time, like saying like, you got 2 more years before, like, I don't know, your youth is over. I'm like, what the heck? Same thing with people who are like 30. I feel like 30 people start complaining like they're 89
I'm
years old.
somewhat joking, because I'll be fine, especially once I get this damn rowing machine. I'm mostly joking.
I know. But still, I think it's funny because it's
I don't want to stray too far away from the topic, because I do know that Roberto's got a little bit of experience coming from the male perspective of just having
unwanted attention.
And so it's a nice way of putting it.
Do I tell the story about like the obsessive trolls that I sicked my lawyer on, or do I tell the story about the unwanted female attention?
For me, the unwanted female attention is the most interesting to me. At least the one the ones that I've heard. But
yeah,
if you feel whatever you feel is most.
I mean, the trolling thing is like not to like, because the trolling thing was actually really bad. Some of it was actually both of the big ones. Also, there was a lot of racism involved in that, so it's like that was so that's always fun.
Wait, what do you mean by trolling?
Some of it I'll talk to you about offline.
Okay.
For reasons. What I like, but it was trolling to to an extreme though. And it was malicious in intent. And it wasn't all in good fun or nothing. And that's why I got my lawyers involved. And it was also both of these individuals were clearly unwell, as that's another reason that I got that involved. And I wanted there to be a third party documentation, someone aware with authority and standing that would be able to be aware and be party to and document everything, you know what I'm saying, just in case anything went sideways. Because so because like there was like I ascertained the identities of these individuals, and they were both separate. They weren't interconnected, but like one of them did have a criminal history, and a history of being institutionalized, and so
What?
yeah. So I wanted to have my bases covered on that.
Oh no.
Yeah. So it is what it's fine. It's in the past, but the thing I will tell you is don't ever like because again I'm someone who's like I was bullied in high school and even in my adult life, even in my corporate life, and definitely on the internet. And it it got to a point to where my tonality, and you guys have known this, and I've had to shift that tonality a little bit. I even lately, even more recently, I like to stand up for myself. I like to punch back. I don't like to let things slide, and I've changed a lot of my stance on that, though, in terms of not feeding the trolls or feeding into it. Because one, some people are just baiting you and tricking you so that they can clickbait it later or screen record it or take you out of context and cancel you and shit like that. So you're better off just not taking the bait and ignoring those people and pretending that they don't exist and treating them like the nobodies that they are, right? And I say nobody's not because of their size or their this or their that. I say nobody's because like somebody who has any kind of accomplishments or self-respect, unless they're making a career out of trolling in like a Belle Delphine type manner or something like that. Like these people are usually losers. These people are usually losers. Even some of the people who become famous for trolling, ultimately in real life, they're just losers. They would never, because there are consequences, they would never be so brave in real life. You know, a lot of these people who think that they're big and bad on the internet, if I pick a street corner in Atlanta of my choosing.
Why is it always a street corner with you?
Yeah, it's like if I pick a corner in Atlanta or Brooklyn of my choosing, give them a soapbox and say, hey, do your bit here. Give everyone your quote unquote criticism. Go ahead and give all of your opinions. Go ahead and exercise your free speech to your heart's content. I'll pick you up in 3 hours. Well, whatever's left of you. And
wow.
Let's see how this goes. Let's see how this goes. Let's see how yeah. Let's see how clever you are now. Right? And so it's like, you know, I mean, it'd be an interesting challenge. If I had like absurd amounts of money, I would literally put money, like I'll put money on it. And like, I would like be like, all right, look cool. Like I've got $10,000 right now. Let's go. Like, let's see if you're going to actually do it. I'll pick the street corner of my choice. And you have to actually do the same shit you do on the internet out loud to perfect strangers. And we'll see how it goes. And, no one will take me up on it. You see, none of these clowns.
Yeah, of course not. I mean,
because they know better.
Most people don't, you know, put their money where their mouth is.
No, in real life, we all know that the way people behave on the internet, and people feign not knowing where the line is or where acceptable boundaries are or where, oh, well, when does it become harassment? Bullshit bad faith arguments, because you know what? They know damn well that if they did it in a bar or a club, at best, they'd be banned and kicked out of the bar or the club. And that's if people are being polite. If people aren't being polite, like they're limping home that night at best, if they get home at all. Like that's for real. That we all know that. We all know that people do all this whole, oh, I'm being censored, I'm being suppressed, it's like if you wouldn't do this bit or you wouldn't say this opinion at your break room at work, why are you doing it in the internet? It's because you believe that you shouldn't have consequences doing it on the internet, either by hiding behind anonymity or hiding behind a bad faith argument of the First Amendment, and then blaming the platforms for the fact that you would not do this without consequences. If you were at a public school, you know you'd be suspended or that you'd have consequences. And you know if you did this at work, that you'd either be dismissed or ridden up or you'd have to see HR. So don't feign ignorance or don't feign like your rights are being taken away from you when it's not, you don't have freedom from consequences. You can say whatever you want, but you can't complain about the consequences that people offer you for saying whatever you want. You really can't. Not in good faith, because you said that. They're allowed to offer you consequences, and you don't get to argue that they were disproportionate because you should have considered that they won't be disproportionate. To our earlier topic, you can't control what other people do.
Right.
So you have to, as a rational actor, you're accepting some consequences. This is different than saying, oh, well, you knew the risk when you became a public figure. Because one, today, not everyone chooses to become a public figure. Some people just go viral.
Right.
So we have to account for that. Number two, people are becoming public figures younger and younger. They don't get a playbook. They don't get, they're not like actors and actresses who really actually are signing a contract, understanding what this means. Because these are public figures, they're still private citizens that are not in the employ of the entertainment industry. When you become an influencer in social media, like, to an extent, you're still a civilian, like, until you're like mega rich, because at that point you kind of crossed over into the mainstream. But even then, there's like, again, like the David Dobrik situation, you still want to be able to live your life, and you may not, even if you have that kind of money. The thing is, you're not a part of the industry in such a way to where it's like necessarily appropriate to move into a gated community, or it's not even guaranteed you'd be allowed to move into a gated community. Because the HOA would have to approve all of that and so on and so forth. So again, there's not an infrastructure for influencers sometimes to have the boundaries and protections and safeties and protocols. And more importantly, there's not the training or the expectation, because you're not a Disney kid signing a contract and then you're literally protected. Quite literally. The company's protecting you and is invested and so on. And there's an agreement to your behavior and to your given protocols for privacy protection, security, and so on.
And your benefits and all that stuff. It's all.
Yeah, it's a very different thing. So
yeah.
So with me, like I had that other situation with the trolls. And my advice to people is, don't feed the trolls, don't combat them, don't go at them, don't go back and forth with people, don't debate with people. Like, ignore, block, ban, report, document, screenshot, if need be, report to authorities, or get your legal team involved if you have one, or if you need to contact a lawyer, you can reach out to me and I can recommend some great people that are social media lawyers that'll have your best interest at heart.
I think that's the thing, is that there's a lot of different things that you can do, but like every situation requires a different approach to an extent. So like in my case, I had someone that I wasn't sure if blocking was really the right choice.
Yeah.
Because of the fact that you can see when someone has blocked you, which is one of the things that I like about Instagram, is that it just shows like no posts. So it's like, oh, well, this person just deleted their whole Instagram, whatever.
Unless you get another account and you like,
right. Unless you get another account and stuff, like, but that's like already an extreme
But
thing.
the thing is, it's like you could fade into the background of that person's mind,
Right. It's just like, right. Yeah.
I think right.
But like on Twitter, it's just like, it says this person has blocked you, it's like a huge thing where it's.
I would like to see an expansion of the law of the right to be forgotten extend to the concept of blocking people, and to not having them be alerted to the fact that so I would like to see that an extension of that. If they're going to go ahead and they're going to start regulating social media, let me help draft that legislation as someone who actually participates in social media and has the understanding. So like, I would like the rules around the blocking to be changed, especially because of situations like what you went through, and what a lot of my female friends have went through. I'd also like, I know that there should be room for valid factual criticism, and there should be room for commentary, but I think that it's abused, and I don't think that it's handled appropriately, because most people doing it are under the age of 25, and a lot of times they often are doing it in such a way that technically violates some of the laws around God, what was the law? I'm trying to get it right, but there's I think it's the Telecommunications Privacy Act, but don't quote me on that. But it's like how I brought up that by California law with the David thing, the recording is illegal, and that there's an all parties consent law. for being recorded, but that includes all forms of communication, including text messages, DMs, and emails. So a lot of your favorite T channels and commentary channels, based on the laws, since a lot of YouTubers reside in the state of California, most of them are committing not only what is a civil penalty, but it's also considered a felony crime. It's considered a felony crime. Like, it's literally that serious. It's that serious. The state just isn't choosing to pursue it because they have more important, serious things to do. But with the money, and we've seen this with things like COPPA and with the FTC and regulations, and this will loop back around here in a minute because the DMs part is gonna become very important for the story that I'm gonna tell. But the thing with that is, the minute the government decides that there's enough money in it, you can believe that they will actually start charging and pursuing influencers and personalities around that and around the violation of privacy when they can find them and when they can make that a revenue source. The minute that they decide that they want to do that, because they did it with COPPA and they've done it with disclosures of brand deals. So there's no reason to believe that they won't do it with this too when they get around to it. It's only a matter of time. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. Every industry gets regulated. Social media is no different. It's just taken a minute because this industry has existed less than 20 years. So they'll get to it, you know, probably in the next 3 to 5 years. So so be aware of that and be prepared for that and understand that there are benign things you may think you're doing because it's part of the culture and everyone does it. But in many cases, you could just be the unlucky person that the law makes an example of one day. So just be very aware and be very careful that ignorance of the law is no protection from it, you know? And most influencers are ignorant of the law. They're ignorant of most of the policies of the platforms, let alone the legal consequences of their actions. So bringing all that up kind of leads to the unsolicited DMs that I get sent. Not as often as all of my female counterparts. A lot of my friends, I have friends who they literally avoid entire platforms just because they're tired of every other DM being a dick pic. But I've gotten some unwanted attention, and it's not that it's not flattering, and there's a stigma, by the way, about complaining about this as a dude, but like, can you imagine if I was like in a relationship, how awkward it would be that like I just keep getting sent nudes or lewds, and like what would and that I would have to defend the fact that it's like, hey, I'm not asking them to do this, and I'm like, you know, I don't know what to do. Like, it's a very awkward situation for a guy to say, yeah, I don't want that. Like, it's or I'm not interested in that, or and it doesn't have to be that someone isn't attractive. It's just a very weird situation, and you also don't know, like, for someone to do that and do it without any prompting, and that one, it could just be someone is very aggressive and forward, and that's fine, but you don't know what else is on the other side of that either. You know, you have no idea. And a lot of guys wouldn't think twice about it, but then that's how you end up on the news anyway, right? Or it's like, or this goes sideways. And then if you do anything one way or the other about this, whether you let them down easy, whether you reject them, it's like, this is somebody who might be fixated. There's no telling what they will do and how the story will get spun. And as the guy in that situation, you won't be given the benefit of the doubt.
Right.
You know, so there are a lot of there's a lot of that to deal with. Not nearly as much. It's not that bad. It's like, and when I say it's not that bad, I mean, I don't want people to think that this is literally an everyday occurrence and everything like that. It's like every couple of weeks, but but it's much worse for female influencers. It's disproportionately worse for like any of my friends, like, you know, and has that ever happened with you guys, or do you mind talking about that at all, or?
Yes.
Was that yes, that's happened, or yes, you mind?
Yes, it's happened, and yes, I mind.
So both. So like, yes. Okay, cool. Like, so we'll focus it on me. It's that the added level, it's obvious that that's unsolicited, unwanted attention if you're a female. If
Yeah.
you're a guy, you're allegedly supposed to want that. You're supposed to want women throwing your panties at you. And the thing is, maybe you don't.
It doesn't happen on Twitter. It's happened on Facebook to me.
I think it's
A
Instagram.
lot.
Pick a platform aside from LinkedIn so far. And yep, that's
Not LinkedIn.
yeah,
Please,
so
no.
far. That's the only one so far. But
You just jinxed it, Roberto.
well, probably. Actually,
I mean,
haven't
Twitter's
checked
a
all of
little
my
bit
DMs.
harder
I haven't
because
checked all
of
my
their...
DMs. No, you'd be surprised. I haven't checked all my DMs. And the thing is, I hear from my female friends that they like have dudes like hitting them up or doing that in LinkedIn of all places. Of all places. So
Why? Oh my god, why do
I
people
don't
have
know.
time to do this?
I don't
Like,
understand.
what?
Like, again, maybe it's because I'm a big old nerd and I find other things to do with my time. And again, it's because like in some ways you could argue that I'm a little old fashioned, but like, I mean, my answer to it is sheesh. Now, but again, like the other issue though is that technically, under a lot of different circumstances, sending sexually explicit images, technically under certain situations, without the other party's consent, is a crime, depending on a number of factors. Don't quote me; I'm not a lawyer, but you can Google. Google's your friend. Google's your friend. And also, even in terms of acting on this and responding to this, if you're a guy in the audience, or actually if you're anybody in the audience, but also especially guys in this situation, because of how it will be, the narrative that will happen in the media is, you also need to consider that you can't trust people's profile when they say what age they are or any information. You cannot trust any of it. And so don't act on it, and obviously do not under any circumstances send or transmit those images to anyone else, because again, you won't be given the benefit of the doubt, and that is also considered a crime, and you'll end up on the registry, and that's not something you want, especially if you're innocent. So do not transmit or forward said images if they are sent to you. And that goes for everybody. But it's even worse because you don't know. One, you don't know if those images are of the person. And then two, you don't know if it's of a consenting adult. And that is dangerous. So do take it seriously and just opt out of the entire thing.
Right. Michael actually brings up a good point in the chat. And I just want to bring this story up before we wrap, because I know we're kind of close to our time here.
Sure.
But so Michael kind of brings up when there's someone who's wanting to collaborate with you and you have to eventually like block them because it's awkward. And it's kind of like, it's not exactly what he's talking about, because he's mentioning, because he has a fiance. And so like, it's just weird to, but it's what you were talking about, Roberto. But the point about the collaboration is a big one, because I've definitely had, like when I was really focused on growing my channel, like my channel was new. And so I was collaborating with everyone and anyone, like anywhere, right? It was just like, oh yeah, for sure, let's do it. And so I did have one guy who just wanted to collaborate with me, but it was kind of like out of the blue type of thing. And I'm not that, like, I don't care if you have 5 subscribers or you have 5 million subscribers. Like, if I see that you're making good content and it's something that I want to be a part of, then I will collaborate. This guy was just kind of like, he came out of nowhere. We didn't have any mutual friends. Like, I hadn't seen him on anybody's channels. And it was a constant, like, oh, let's collaborate. Let's do this. And I was like, okay, well, like, what do you have in mind? Like, what's your idea, And like, he comes up with like this idea, but like, it consisted of like going to his house and filming like because he does like reaction videos, right?
Yeah.
I'm just like, my dude, like, I don't know you. You want me to go to your house to film a video? Like, no, I don't think so. I kind of just brushed it off. Like, I was just like, okay, I mean, like, I'll think about it or whatever, like, whatever. Like, I just left it as like a, maybe someday, but not today.
An open-ended thing.
That's
Right.
why on Instagram they should let you. You know how it's like you have to accept a DM or something, and then once you do, they're like
Oh,
they can
right. It
keep
goes
sending you
into
messages, and you can't like mute them or anything without blocking them. There should be
Right.
an option to like just like respond but not accept them fully, so that
That's
they're
why
not a
every
part of your
platform.
like general.
That's why every
Right.
one of these platforms should have a creators council that like tells them
Mm-hmm.
what our experiences are using the platform and tells them how to make our life better, because a lot of it isn't just us bitching about the algorithms and about our reach. It's about privacy concerns, security concerns, the culture of the platform, and also the way that the tools enable things like stalking and harassment
Mm-hmm.
or not
Yeah.
setting boundaries.
Plus, also teaching creators that even though we can see each other, on our YouTube channels and stuff, and we think that we know who these people are, you have to be careful about collaborating with people, and they might be friends, they might become your best friends, but if you don't know them, don't go to someone's house, don't have them come to your house, like meet somewhere else first, hang out,
Yeah.
and try to
Yeah.
maybe find another place, like rent a studio or something
Well,
to
you know,
film
I
your
go out
videos.
of my way for people not to know. Like, I mean, obviously I trust you guys and Jay and like
Right.
a couple other
But
people, but
also, we're
like,
not like random people that just offer
true.
to collaborate on a
I
video,
mean,
which a lot of YouTubers will just say yes to because they want to collaborate and it's fun and stuff. It
Yeah.
doesn't like we don't have to be best friends to collaborate, and
I
that's
feel
like
like
the environment that we've created in YouTube, right?
Yeah.
But also we have to be
Well, that
careful
becomes
about
like
like
a
where,
coworkers, colleagues type situation.
one
right?
thing that I found is that a lot, like, because for me, I'm careful anytime someone reaches out to want to collab. Like I've had times where these like middle-aged men are like, let's collab. And there was once that I was at a conference and they invited me to get breakfast in their hotel room, and I was like, you have to realize from my perspective how weird that sounds. Like I
Yeah.
genuinely think this guy was nice, but I was like, you have to like put yourself in my shoes for a couple
Uh-huh.
seconds and then rethink that sentence. Like there's some things like that where it's just
Yeah. I mean, and I can see how that could go, like, because again, I'm like 36, and like a lot of my homies are younger than me. They're in your generation, like Audrey. It's like, um, oh God, almost everybody, and some of them are like your age or like younger. Like, Paul is like 19, so he's like super young, but I've been mentoring him for like years. In fact, I actually told him how to better protect himself and his privacy and security for reasons. Because he's
Mm,
experienced like this stuff. Again, a lot of people don't think that you'd experience it as like a guy, but even as a 16-year-old or 14-year-old kid, he had internet
that's
freaking
not
stuff. Like, that's not cool. Like, no. So like, very protective of like, I'm very protective, as you know, I'm very protective of my friends, but I'm also very protective of our space, and I like try to go out of my way to educate people, especially about the privacy stuff. I actually might have some brand collaborations with some companies around that coming up, but the like the other side of this is like I'm a few years younger than Gary V, right? Gary V is
mm,
44 now, 45,
mm.
45 I think. He's 45 now, or 44, something like that. No, he's gonna turn 45 this year, in next month I think. Anyway, the I'm 36. I'm getting close to like I'm at an age where like Gary was when he was the beginning of his height as a public figure is the age I am now, and he was mentoring the young influencers that would become household names today at that point. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So I draw some parallels there with him being a mentor and us being friendly, and I've like been thinking about that, and I'm thinking about like with me, I know that people definitely don't get the wrong idea a lot of times, but I also have to wonder and think about sometimes how it looks to spend that much time invested in people that are like Mr. Beast age, but for the obvious reason that I'm looking at the new talent in the industry, and I know it's going to skew young, and I know that that's where the innovation is going to come from, you know?
Mm.
But as that age gap grows, I can also understand, and even as my own leverage grows, I can understand how things might look. But I think part of that is, at least in my situation, is like, Audrey, I would have like, it would have never been a, oh, come do breakfast at our hotel thing. It would have been, come do breakfast and meet these other people. And it would have been an open format type thing, you know?
Yeah.
And it would have not been a one-on-one
Or
thing.
just in a more public
or if it was a one-on-one thing, it would be come to the office, make an appointment, check in at the thing, meet the team, and we'll talk. You know, like, again, like when people go to New York and they go to Vayner and they go to Hudson Yards and they go and see Gary, you know what I'm saying? It would be more like that. And that's kind of like the thing I think about now in the future for like scale of like, there's a perception sometimes, because to a point, because I'm trying to remember who in the chat brought it up about being misunderstood. Was it Otto or was it Michael?
It was Otto.
It was Otto. That, like, yeah, sometimes something sounds better in your head than it looks. And I could see how that would play out. And then sometimes also people, the collabs thing is interesting. There's like, this person never brought it up and I lost touch with this person, but like, there was a collab that it didn't work out, but it didn't work out for any like reason. It was that it didn't work out because like at the time, I sometimes was like experimenting with camera gear, and it was a traveling kind of thing where I was in town for something else, and the camera audio I used didn't have a dedicated mic input because it was the Sony RX100 Mark V. So as you know, in-camera audio is like very sus. It's very trash sometimes. And so it's just one of those, I didn't post the video because I was like, the harshest comment, as you know, that I used to get back in the day was, man, if you could just work on your audio. So I didn't end up posting a video. Now, granted, she didn't post a video on her channel at anything, but I was like the larger channel. So like the thing is, in good faith, is if you do a collab with a smaller YouTuber and you're the bigger channel, if you guys don't post exactly the same day, the idea would be that you post first, because then they know that this thing is happening and you're promoting them and so on and so forth. So like I promoted her other stuff, and like I tagged her in Instagram and some stuff or whatever. But it's one of those things to where someone could take it in their head, or somebody could suggest that's like, well, like, he didn't post because you didn't like do anything for him, or because you like didn't give him enough attention, or you didn't like, you know, like gas him up or anything like that, or you didn't flirt with him. Like, there are people who like do that, and there's like, and there's people in real life, by the way, that is how they operate. There are YouTubers that I know operate that way. It's weird to me that actually in Shane Dawson's documentary, Jake Paul was called out and fessed up on that, and his people exposed him on that, and nothing ever really came of that, you know.
The one guy that I mentioned earlier who kept asking me to collab with him, and I didn't know him. He eventually ran into me at some event at YouTube Space. And he was like, "Oh, I saw that you collabed with so-and-so." I was like, "Yep." And he's like, "How'd you manage that?" And I was like,
trying to like guilt you into the fact, like, go on. Dude.
I was like, because they're my friends. And he's like, "How'd you do that?" So these people, the people that I collabed with, have over a million subscribers. At this point, I had maybe 3,500 subscribers. So he was like, "How'd you do that? You know, like, how'd you manage that?" Like, he said it in a way that was like, "I want to know how you accomplished this so that I can do it."
Like, oh, I want to reverse engineer this, and two, there's no way that you just are just tight with the person like that or something. Like, what's going on here? What's the secret handshake?
Right, exactly. So it was kind of like a very like, oh, well, you know, it's my turn now, right?
I get frustrated with the idea of people getting like, I have to ask you guys, maybe next week is about collabs, and I want to ask you guys about that, because the thing is, I keep seeing that there's an obsession with the idea of doing collabs, and I feel like sometimes people try to use people like for that, and then they'll manufacture...
I kind of like that. We should talk about that next week, because I saw that Andy asked a couple questions about that earlier, I think, and but I didn't bring it up because it just wasn't really relevant to what we were talking about. I feel like we can definitely talk about that kind of thing. next week because we've all had our fair share experience with that.
Yeah,
Yes.
I do feel that like sometimes people do like some people are just excited about it and there's nothing wrong with that and everything like that. I'm not I'm not against it, and I have some really good ideas for collabs, and there's some dream collabs that I'd like to do because I think they'd be fun more than anything. But it's one of
Right.
those things where I think like people like use each other, but I'm also like very cautious of the fact that it's like I don't want anyone to ever feel like I'm using them, you know? Whether they're a big creator, whether they're a small creator, whether they're anybody, I never want. That's why I don't ask for things a lot of the times. Even though, like, I'd be further in my career if I were transactional on things, or even just asked for favors every now and again, or asked like in a way for like as much as I've done for people, for some people to like pay it back forward. Like I would be further along, but I don't do that just because like I don't like the idea of people even thinking for 1 minute that I used them, or thinking that I needed to use them, or that I needed to leverage them, or that I like frankly needed them at all. Like like in a way. And I think that's also some of the success of my relationships is the fact that people understand that it's like I want nothing from them. Like I want nothing from them. Like and I'm
Well,
genuine.
Roberto, you know what I do want from you?
An outro?
Heck yeah.
Well, I do
What
want to
is
finish this
that?
thought. I want to finish this thought real quick.
All right, you
Okay.
got 20 seconds.
It'll take a little longer than that, but like
No,
but
we've got
but
next
there's a I
episode
want
to
to
talk
because
about it. I don't want you to get into it because I want people. All
I want to
right.
give people a message. I want to get like
All right.
so like
Is it about
we
stalkers
talked
and
about
security?
we talked about how scary a lot of all of this is, but I don't want that to discourage you from pursuing whatever it is you want to do, whether you want to be a creator, an influencer, a speaker, an entrepreneur, whatever you want. Like you shouldn't let our horror stories be a reason for you to not do any of this or to shy away from it. You just need to be very aware of what could happen, but also like don't like sit there and also like you can set boundaries and you can like create those boundaries, but you don't have to harden your heart to do it, and you don't have to always be suspicious of people, and you don't have to be cynical as hell or anything like that just because we've had some bad experiences. You should try to give people the benefit of the doubt, but you should also pay very close attention and be very observant. Do your research, be as safe as possible, and don't be overly trusting. Just because you can give people the benefit of the doubt without being overly trusting. You can set
be
up
nice
boundaries. You can be
without-
nice. You can set up boundaries, and you can also be polite and very firm and respectful and upfront about putting distance between people and saying the simple words, I'm not comfortable with that. The simple words, I'm not comfortable with that, are very important and go a long way. Also, don't be afraid to communicate something rather than just let there being a misunderstanding and letting it stand. One of the things I regret sometimes is not just being more communicative, which is what I do now. Now I over communicate, but I do it and I'll risk the awkwardness of over communicating just because I would rather be very, very, very vocal and on the record about where I stand on something than leave it the chance of being misinterpreted, misconstrued, and someone boiling up those feelings inside over what was not my intent or was just a misunderstanding. And I regret sometimes just letting things slide and not saying, hey, this is why this versus that, or hey, I wasn't comfortable with this, or I'm not comfortable with this, or but I would love to do this or this potentially, and so on and so forth. And then yeah, I think that would have went a long way toward people not having hurt feelings, because like it's very easy for artists and creative people to be very sensitive and to internalize everything and just think, and I do this all the time. I think people hate me all the time. Like, you know, with almost no evidence to go off of, I just assume that that people took things the wrong way and that they hate me or that they're being distant, or like I like all the time. And it's very bad. But when I step back and I take a breather, I realize that I'm putting things on them that they didn't like say or do or communicate or suggest, and I'm just imagining the worst because of my own insecurities and because I haven't had I haven't been quote unquote validated in a way that would let me not think that. And that's not fair to project make your fears and your insecurities other people's problem. It's also not healthy for you to fixate on those things and on the desire and need for acceptance, approval, and validation, I would tell you that if you're looking for those things as a content creator, focus on the work and the process of the work. Focus on the thing that you're making. Focus on your ideas, and focus on your community. And don't really chase anything else. And that'll lead to next week's conversation around collabs, because I think a lot of you are looking for validation and acceptance in the form of collabs and in being part of the bigger YouTube community and being accepted by big YouTubers, instead of being accepted by the people who are watching you and letting them feel like they're understood and like there's somebody that's making content just for them. And I think that if you think more like that, you have a better YouTube experience, you'll be a lot healthier, you'll be a lot safer, and when you do have relationships with creator friends, they'll be organic instead of being a transaction. And that's where I think I can bookmark it.
That was good.
Yeah.
I'm excited for next week. Collabs should be I feel like I could talk a lot about that one.
Indeed.
Oh, finally.
Wow.
We'll have you start off the episode next week.
Okay. I already did this week.
All right, before we wrap up, Roberto, give us your honest feedback on Audrey's intro. Did you catch it?
I did.
I needed more prep time. I wasn't prepared at all.
Hold on, let him give your feedback.
Your feedback is you ain't Roberto.
Ooh, that an eclipse? I feel so shady.
I need to work on my Roberto voice.
Actually, just having an announcer voice makes it easier to flow into the content, because like Romina said, she didn't know when you were doing it versus not. So just having an announcer voice is
yeah, you see, Roberto
agrees with me. So that's the tip. That's some constructive criticism, is find your inner announcer voice.
I'll work on that.
Yeah. Mine is inspired by Robin Leach from Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous. Old school.
Lifestyles of the Rich and
Famous. Yeah, it's before your time, Audrey. Everything's before your time.
Oh my god.
All right. Do you have an outro?
The easy one to come up with nicknames for the outro and everything.
Am I really that difficult?
Look at all the props Romina's got going.
Yeah, I have so many props.
I've got one.
I have a telescope.
Yeah, I've got you.
I'm ready.
Thank you for listening to a Halloween holiday edition of the No Assembly Required podcast, filmed in front of a live YouTube audience. Please remember to give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcast, as well as a review. You can't do that on Spotify because they won't do their damn job and update the app. In any case, we thank you for tuning in. Join us next week for our conversation on collabs, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Thursday-ish. As for us, we will be exiting now. This has been your trio of hosts, Audrey the Devil You Know Ember, Romina the Red-Nosed Reindeer, and of course, your friendly neighborhood SpiderMan, Roberto Blake. Thank you for listening to the No Assembly Required podcast. Nah.